This is Halloween, this is Halloween. Welcome back, folks. Your Mythic Game Master here with you again. This time we're going to talk about the season. That's right, it's Halloween season. So I thought I would give you a few recommendations, 3 for GMs and 3 for players for use during the Halloween season. I don't know about you, but at my table we have a tradition. Every Halloween we work in essentially what I would call horror adventures. That's our way to just kind of celebrate Halloween and keep the spirit of the season going through our games and everything else. Now, it's always good if you can do that in as unobtrusive a manner as possible. I'm showing you some of my recommendations while I jibber jabber through the intro here. But that's not always possible. When I get to one of these books, this one in particular, I guess I'll tell you the whole story. Which means I may as well start it right now, right? Should I start with DMs or players? I never know which way to go. I'm too lazy to make a video for both. You know, I like to cover themes, and if you're like me, if you're a DM, you play at some point, right? So I guess this just makes these videos for DMs, but if you're a player, you can get some things out of this too. Like, for example, I'm going to give you guys 3 recommendations. For me, horror is, encountering fearful things, the taboo, superstitions that we feel like we'd overcome. Specifically, the dead, the living dead, vampires, monsters, beasts from other worlds, other planes, all that sort of stuff. But in order to make it a properly horrific campaign, there has to be a sense of fear or feeling of dread throughout the adventure itself, and then you can kind of punctuate that depending on one's taste, whether as a GM you want a bloody, visceral battle, or if you want to keep things more psychological, like a stroll through a dark wood or something. You might keep your players hearing more things than they actually encounter. Or if say your proclivities lean more towards the slasher and visceral side, you might want to end with a bloody battle with some kind of undead revenant trying to rip your PCs into pieces. So, in a nutshell, that encapsulates the versatility and the widespread appeal and the wide umbrella, if you will, that the genre of horror can cast, and that's what makes it fun for Halloween. So where are we going to start? Players' recommendations quickly. Horror adventures. If you're going to make a character for a campaign such as Ravenloft, if you're playing 5e, or Carrion Crown, or Strange Eons, if you're playing Pathfinder, or whatever comes next, horror adventures is a great way to go. I guess you can't use this for 5e, but you get my drift. But as a player, to me, it's always more fun to fit in thematically than to try to have all the major bonuses. I mean, honestly, the way Pathfinder is created, you can get all the most powerful feats from the original core rulebook. So everything that comes out in addition to the core rulebook is just flavor for your character. So if you're playing in a fun horror-themed campaign, horror adventures is the way to go. And the second would be this one cover I just kept showing you for a little while, just because this is the order that I pulled it off the shelf. That is the Grimoire of Lost Souls, which is about a character class about getting spirits and ghosts and otherworldly beings and that sort of thing to do your bidding throughout the game. So it's a different type of, it's not necessarily spell casting, it's whatever you want to call it, working with the spirits. I think eventually when the Occult Adventures book came out, that they called that the medium class. Is kind of what it became. So this would be my third recommendation. If you're a player wanting to play in a horrific campaign, go with something from the Occult Adventures. The Occult Skill Locks adds an entirely different texture and nuance to an occult campaign, because it gives everybody the ability to do psychometry and aura reading and all that kind of, psychic new agey kind of stuff. So all of that lends itself right into old horror type campaigns, be they gothic or supernatural detective stories or what have you. Anytime I say something like gothic, the gothic genre means something where the setting is as an important part of the story as everything else. It's as much a character as everything else. And in that way, like Strange Eons was very, very gothic, even though it had a lot of Lovecraftian themes to it. So today we're going to try to... There's a Mythic Halloween cover from Legendary Games. So, Horror Adventures. Now, this actually is part of my recommendation for GMs as well, is to use Horror Adventures. You can see in the beginning that it has options for classes and archetypes down here. So, almost every type of class that you'd want to play in a horror type campaign is represented here. There are expanded rules for fear and sanity. I do like the expanded fear rules. I'd recommend giving those a little try every now and then. Of course, the art, as always, is absolutely gorgeous in a Paizo book. To me, it's more important to fit in thematically to a campaign. I just don't understand people that want to break everything down into only mechanics and what kind of mechanical advantage they're going to get from it. This book really is good. I mean, it got kind of a mixed reputation, but to me, if you're going to play in that type of adventure, it's good to find a way to fit in. Like I briefly played a online play-by-post campaign of Carrion Crown, wherein I played a moon-cursed barbarian. So he could only rage by turning into a bear, which is a little bit of a drawback. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of a drawback because, weapons, anything you're holding or wearing becomes part of your were form, your bear form. So, I had to plan for it a little bit, like he would drop his great axe just so he could pick it up after he transformed. But that was really the only thing that he had that would survive the transition. Oh yeah, curses, corruptions, that's what they're called, corruptions. They're really nifty addition. When I ran Strange Aeons, I added corruptions to all the characters just as a way to advance their backstory in a way that they had not, that they just didn't know of, because that's kind of the part of the adventure of that story. But anyway, so you got that stuff, you got all these archetypes. So the more you can fit in thematically, the more fun it'll be. So there you go, Occult Adventures. Just completely restructured the entire game, and in some ways leads a little bit towards what eventually became Pathfinder 2, in the way that they have like resonant abilities and some of those different mechanics. But definitely the skill unlocks adds that whole new flavor to occult campaigns, and the occult lends itself to horror. So again, if you're going to be a player in a horrific type campaign. Now, Paizo doesn't corner the market on horrific campaigns. I mean, say somebody is converting Ravenloft for you, you might want to play something from the Occult Adventures in that. So there you go. Really love the Wayne Reynolds artwork on there. Another honorable mention would be the Gothic Campaign Compendium from Legendary Games. It's a collection of their feats and spells and even little side adventures that they came up with for Carrion Crown. So my second book to recommend to GMs is the Monster Movie Matinee. So what we did in my original Mythic campaign was every Halloween we would work in creatures from the Monster Movie Matinee. And I found over the first year of doing that we had the most fun with the Freddy Krueger analog, believe it or not. So let's pull this one down and take a look at it, why don't we? So you can see on the cover, gray aliens, killer clowns from outer space. These are all analogs for those anyway. That's the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Predator, the Yautja. And there's Freddy right there. There's a better picture of the creature from the Black Lagoon, or the Gill Man, or whatever he's called. He's called the Aqua Monstrosity in here. So the names are changed just enough, but you understand, you know, pretty much what they are. Aqua Monstrosity, Carnivorous Man-Trap, Gray Invader, Jungle Predator, Killer Clown, Night Terror, Nightmare Stalker, Shark Tornado, Snatchoid, and Unstoppable Maniac. So I've used not all of these, but quite a few of them. The artwork on this is really good. If you have a copy of the PDF, it's easy enough to kind of like take screenshots if you need to, if you can't extract the image from the PDF. And you can kind of whittle those down and create your avatars for online play. And you can even use these images. If you're crafty enough, you can make pawns for the table, which is something I did. Here's the Predator version. We actually used these when I introduced Mythic rules into Iron Gods. And the idea was that the Predators would go from planet to planet and infect the species with this bizarre little liquid, pretty much similar to what we saw in Prometheus, right? Except it gives PCs mythic abilities, and once they become mythic, then the Predators like to hunt them. So anyway, so there you go. So part of my Iron Gods backstory was Predators hunting mythic PCs. There's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. What is that? That's the Night Terror. That's what movie was that? Well, I don't want to show you absolutely every one of these. There's the Freddy version. I augmented him a little bit with some mythic abilities there. I always make notes on stickies for myself. I did take that image and I shrunk it down a few times and made it into a proper pawn. And one time, yes, we did work in a Sharknado. I just thought, what the heck, we'll do a Sharknado just because we're here and we can do it. I'm trying to remember if that was like a dream encounter as well or not. Well, anyway, I'm running out of time, so let me show you the last few. That's definitely a favorite monster movie matinee, and you can get that in print and PDF from Drive-Thru RPG, I believe. At one time, like Paizo and some of the other places had all those books for print and PDF, but that time is gone apparently. And this is the last recommendation, mainly for GMs, although there are player options in it as well, and that's Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos. This is for Pathfinder, but it is available for 5e as well. And I have the original print run because I wasn't sure if this thing was ever going to be reprinted again, how many there would ever be. But they did wind up doing multiple print runs. But so mine, it has this mixture of really nice art, which you see here, with this strange kind of painted miniature art. Which, to me, I mean, I didn't have a huge problem with it, because for one thing, if you have these miniatures, which I do, there's Rand Tegoth, that I just opened it to, and I know that name because I've painted that darn miniature. Once you spend enough time painting a miniature, you get to know it intimately. But it does give you a good painting guideline, a good color guideline for your miniatures, if nothing else. But some people were really mad, really offended by this. But anyway, if you don't have anywhere else to go in your campaign, or even if you're just starting out, you can throw all kinds of Lovecraftian and Cthulhu Elder Gods monstrosities at your players. And that doesn't mean they have to fight Cthulhu in the first adventure. That means, no, they can fight some Cthulhu cultists, because in here you have full information for cult members, what the various cults are made of. You can see over here on this side, cults, that sort of thing. And then you have examples and stats offered in bestiary format throughout the book. The encounters with the elder gods themselves are presented in a different way. It's not like an entity that one can fight the way these are presented. There are instances of elder gods being presented as big stat blocks, you know, CR30, whatever stat blocks that PCs can fight in the bestiaries. But here they're presented more as presences where things happen and all this chaos is going on, and there's really kind of no center to the storm to be able to single it out and stab it with a sword, if you will, which is more in keeping with the nature of the cosmic nature of the Cthulhu mythos. So anyway, so there you go. It does have player options. There you can see some of the player races. What is it? The Ghoul Hound and the Four-Armed Alien. I forget what those are called. It does have the Dreamlands cat, which to me is kind of cool. I could see playing a Dreamlands cat. That could be interesting. But this is more of a Game Master book. It does have its own version of sanity rules. I forget what they're called. But anyway, I've gone on far too long, so hopefully this helps you find a little fun in your Halloween adventures. Again, you can pull from Cthulhu Mythos and horror adventures to help sharpen up the dreadful and frightening elements of your Halloween adventures, so you don't have to divert the entire campaign into some kind of random side quest just in order to fill your horror quota for the month. No, you can just take whatever it is that they're currently doing and bump all the horror elements up to 11. This one goes to 11, so to speak. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Give this a like.